can understand my concern here, and I want to make sure that Ms. Retzlaff has a fair trial with jurors that are able to hear the case.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us today. The judge finds the former owner of Annie's Campground competent to stand trial later this month.
And Retzlaff is facing multiple felonies, accused of leading police on a chase through 2 counties, plus bail jumping. In a First Alert update, Brittany Schmidt listened in as the judge revealed what they find most concerning about the case moving forward.
A competency evaluation made public in court Thursday revealed Ann Retzlaff is competent to stand trial and aid in her own defense. Her attorney requested the evaluation last month. On Thursday, he only had one objection to the report.
The indication that Ms. Retzlaff endorsed paranoid and delusional beliefs.
Ms. Retzlaff, I have to ask you, are you in fact competent?
Yes, Your Honor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here fighting the injustices of the system and human trafficking.
Shortly after finding Retzlaff competent, Marathon County Judge Michael Moran made it clear he wants a large jury pool to pick from for Retzlaff's fast-approaching trial.
I want to make sure we have enough. I don't want to run out of jurors.
For a felony case, Shawano County District Attorney Gregory Parker says they usually summon 50 potential jurors, but the clerk of court says they do have a pool of 3 times that many, 150 people, if needed.
That's my big concern, at least as far as logistics, having enough jurors that are able to hear this case, given the amount of publicity and the amount of issues in this case that have been in the public domain.
Retzlaff was charged in 2021 after authorities say she refused to pull over for a Menominee County deputy on Highway 47. With 4 squad cars in pursuit, Retzlaff drove over 2 sets of stop spikes and continued driving on 4 deflating tires. According to the complaint, Retzlaff told authorities she was a sovereign citizen. While in custody on Thursday, Retzlaff tried to talk to the judge directly several times.
Your Honor, may I ask a question?
Your attorney would be the one that would ask the question. You can ask the attorney.
But she eventually got through.
Your Honor, what about bail reduction, motion to compel discovery for the Brady material, the missing 911 tapes from Menominee Sheriff's Department from May 15th, 2021? There are FOIAs to that effect, and the tapes do exist, and they are not in our hands for review.
The judge told Retzlaff to take up these issues with her attorney. He scheduled a final pretrial hearing for January 18th, with the trial expected to begin the next week. I'm Brittany Schmidt for Action 2 News.